motorcycles that simply take you from one place to another. And then there are machines that completely change the way you feel about riding. In 2026, one name that still carries that raw, emotional presence, that dark, elegant identity, and the timeless cruiser. Seoul is the 2026 Jawa Perak. This is not just a motorcycle update. This is a reminder that real motorcycling is not about speed or technology overload. It is about emotion, connection, and pure riding experience. When you first see it, it doesn't try to impress you with noise or flashy aggression. Instead, it quietly demands attention. It stands there like a shadow, with purpose, low and powerful, like it knows exactly what it is. The 2026 Jawa Perak continues that legacy of being different. In a world full of similar-looking machines, it doesn't follow trends. It creates its own identity and stays loyal to it. There are motorcycles that are built to get you from one place to another. And then there are motorcycles that are built to make you feel something deeper. Every time you ride them, something emotional, something powerful, something that stays in your memory, long after the engine is turned off. The Jawa Perak belongs to that second category. It is not just a machine made of metal and bolts. It is a statement of personality and, in many ways, a lifestyle for those who truly understand what riding is all about. The first time you look at it, you don't just see a motorcycle. You see a machine that feels like it has a story behind it. A low-slung stance, a dark and mysterious silhouette, and a design language that refuses to follow modern aggressive trends. Instead, it embraces something much more classic and emotional. It feels like a motorcycle built for solitude, for long empty roads, for quiet nights, and for riders who enjoy being alone with their thoughts. While the world passes by, the design of this machine is one of its strongest emotional triggers. It carries a bobber-style identity that instantly separates it from everything else on the road. The single-seat layout gives it a raw and minimalistic personality. There is nothing unnecessary here. Everything exists for a purpose, and that purpose is pure riding experience. The fuel tank is sculpted with a vintage touch, giving it a muscular yet elegant shape. The matte finish adds depth and mystery, making it look like it belongs in a world where style is not loud, but deeply confident when you sit on it. The first thing you notice is how different the posture feels compared to typical motorcycles. It is low, relaxed, and slightly stretched. This is not a bike that forces you into aggression. Instead, it invites you into calmness. Your hands naturally fall on the handlebars. Your feet rest in a position that feels comfortable, and suddenly you realize that this is not just about riding fast. This is about riding in a way that lets you feel every moment. Now let's talk about the heart of the machine. The engine, because no matter how beautiful a motorcycle looks, it is the engine that defines its character. The Jawa Perak carries a single-cylinder engine that focuses more on torque and smooth delivery rather than extreme speed. It is not designed to compete with high-performance racing machines. Instead, it is designed to give you a steady, confident, and enjoyable riding experience. When you start the engine, you don't get a loud, aggressive roar that tries to dominate the environment. Instead, you get a deep, controlled thump that feels grounded and real. It is the kind of sound that doesn't just enter your ears, but settles in your chest, and that sound is important, because it sets the tone for the entire ride. As you begin to ride, the power delivery feels smooth and predictable. There are no sudden surprises, no aggressive spikes, just a steady flow of torque that carries you forward. This makes the motorcycle very friendly for both experienced riders and those who are still learning how to truly connect with a machine. It gives you confidence instead of intimidation. In city riding conditions, the bike feels manageable and balanced. It is not overly heavy in a way that makes traffic stressful. Instead, it allows you to move through urban roads with a sense of control. The clutch response is light enough to handle stop-and-go situations, and the overall ride feels stable, even when traffic gets chaotic. But the real magic of this motorcycle begins when you take it out of the city, when the roads open up, when traffic disappears, and when there is nothing ahead of you except an endless stretch of asphalt. That is when the Jawa Perak starts to reveal its true personality. It is in these moments that the bike feels alive, in a completely different way. The suspension setup plays a big role in this experience. It absorbs road imperfections in a way that allows you to stay connected. Without feeling uncomfortable, you still feel the road beneath you, but not in a harsh or disturbing way. Instead, it feels controlled and natural. This balance is what makes long rides enjoyable rather than tiring. The handling of the bike is also something that deserves attention. It is not built to be a sharp cornering machine. but it offers a sense of stability. That makes every turn feel predictable and safe. You always feel like the bike is in control, even when the road conditions change. That predictability builds trust, and trust is one of the most important things between a rider and a motorcycle. Now, when we talk about braking, the system does its job in a calm and effective way. It doesn't feel overly aggressive, but it gives you enough confidence to slow down safely whenever needed. The balance between front and rear braking ensures stability, which is especially important for a bike that is designed for relaxed cruising rather than racing. One of the most interesting aspects of this motorcycle is how it makes you change your riding mindset. In a world where most people are always in a hurry, always trying to go faster, always trying to reach the destination before even enjoying the journey, this bike forces you to slow down mentally. It doesn't rush you, it doesn't push you. Instead, it tells you to take your time. And strangely, that becomes addictive, because once you start riding it without rushing, you begin to notice things you normally ignore. The sound of the engine becomes more meaningful. The wind feels more natural. The road feels less like a path and more like an experience. Even simple rides start feeling special. The Jawa Perak is not trying to be a modern technological showcase. It does not overload you with screens, complex systems, or unnecessary digital distractions. Instead, it keeps things simple. And that simplicity is where its beauty lies. It brings you back to the basics of motorcycling. Just you, the machine, and the road. There is also a strong emotional connection that develops over time. This is not a bike you forget after a few rides. Instead, it becomes part of your routine, part of your thoughts, and sometimes even part of your personality. Riders often find themselves thinking about it, even when they are not riding. That is not something every motorcycle can achieve, and perhaps the most powerful thing about it is the feeling of individuality it gives you. This is not a mass identity motorcycle that looks like everything else on the road. It has its own character, its own identity, and its own presence. When you ride it, you don't feel like you are just another rider in traffic. You feel like someone who has chosen a different path, a path that values emotion over speed, experience over competition, and connection over complexity. In the end, the Jawa Perak is not just about specifications or numbers. It is about feeling. It is about the experience of riding, something that understands the rider. As much as the rider understands it, it is about those quiet moments on empty roads, where everything else disappears and only the ride remains. And that is what makes it special. Because some motorcycles are built to impress people, but this one is built to impress the rider.